some news developments coming in from Hong Kong, where the pro-democracy activist and media tycoon Jimmy Lai has been charged under the new security law. Lai, who is a huge critic of Beijing, became the most high-profile person to be charged under the sweeping new law. According to the police, Jimmy Lai has been charged with suspicion of colluding with foreign forces and endangering national security. Jimmy Lai was denied bail earlier this month on a separate charge of fraud related to the lease of a building that houses his Apple Daily and anti-government tabloid. Now, joining us more with the latest developments, Richard Kimber joins us live from Hong Kong. Richard, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast. Now, clearly, Jimmy Lai, this is the most high-profile arrest under the national security law. Tell us more about the charges as well as the reactions expected among the pro-democracy activists. Richard, I'd repeat my question. Tell us a little bit about the charges against Jimmy Lai. This is clearly the most high-profile arrest under the new national security law. And what has been the reaction among the activists in the city?
That's right. Jimmy Lai has been charged with colluding with foreign forces. That's one of the charges that's being levied under the new national security law. He becomes the fourth person to be charged under the law, by far the most high profile of the four so far. The other three, not really particularly well-known activists or pro-democracy campaigners. They've been charged over specific individual incidents that have taken place since the law was brought into force. Jimmy Lai, on the other hand, of course, a 73-year-old, very prominent, outspoken pro-democracy campaigner and the media tycoon who heads the entire pro-democracy newspaper group, the Apple Daily, and his Next Media group that owns that newspaper. So by far and away the biggest name to be charged under the security law. The reaction from pro-democracy campaigners is very sympathetic towards Jimmy Lai. He, of course, is already being detained. He was charged last week for a completely separate case relating to the land lease of his newspaper headquarters and has been remanded in custody until April, a very long period to be denied bail, according to those pro-democracy campaigners. So the sight of him being charged again under the national security law, a much more serious offence, has caused much more frustration and much more campaigning among his supporters.
Right. Now, Richard, as you just said, Jimmy Lai happens to be a very prominent figure in Hong Kong. His Apple Daily is hugely popular, prominently for being a critic of the Beijing administration. So could this latest high-profile arrest be seen as a way for the Beijing administration to muzzle the media in Hong Kong?
Well, certainly there are serious concerns about that. The Apple Daily newspaper that Jimmy Lai owns has consistently said throughout this period, since the national security law was brought into force, that it has no intention of reducing its coverage, no intention of reducing its tendency to be more sympathetic towards the pro-democracy movement. However, the newspaper has been specifically targeted by police in recent months. There were 200 police officers who carried out a raid on the headquarters in very high-profile circumstances just a couple of months ago, and that raid was widely criticised, not just in Hong Kong by campaigners who are sympathetic to the movement, but internationally too. And so that newspaper has certainly been seen to come under fire since this national security law was introduced. There have also been separate incidents where investigative journalists from other media organisations have been charged with offences relating to their work and their protest activities. So there is a sense of concern among the media and journalistic community here that indeed there is an effort to try and reduce the amount of journalistic dissent that's taking place in this city now.
Right. Richard, my final question. Of late, we've seen some of the biggest pro-democracy activists arrested by the Beijing administration, and now this recent high-profile arrest. So where does the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong stand as of now?
Well, indeed, we saw Joshua Wong, Agnes Chow, two of the most prominent young activists, jailed just a couple of weeks ago. They're receiving around a year in jail, and Agnes Chow just last week was denied bail in her effort to appeal that decision. We've also seen high-profile lawmakers, or now former lawmakers, since they disqualified in protest at the state of government here, fleeing to the UK because they don't feel safe and they're afraid themselves that they will be prosecuted somehow under this law. So as you say, the pro-democracy movement really is in disarray disarray in the sense that some of its figureheads, even though it never really had a single leader, some of its figureheads, be they lawmakers, be they activists, be they well-known campaigners, have all in some way or other ended up reducing their prominence because they've either ended up being arrested or they've ended up leaving Hong Kong entirely. So while there's still many efforts to try and lobby for more international support, and no doubt there will be after this latest charge, the fact is that there are no more protests on the street and there's very little actual activism taking place on a daily basis.
Right, Richard, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast.